Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Doreen Ivory. I am the Mentoring Resource Specialist with Children's Network of San Bernardino County. And thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started with a quick video while we are waiting for more attendees to be signing in. And so while you're watching the video, if you wouldn't mind to put your name, your agency, and email into the chat so that we have that down as our attendance record for you. So again, thank you so much for being here. And we are going to start the video.
Becoming a better mentor. Strategies to be there for young people. Practicing cultural humility. Cultural humility is an ongoing, lifelong process of self-reflection and learning about how social identity and experiences are shaped by systems of oppression, power, and privilege. Social identity is a person's sense of who they are based on their group membership, which can reflect physical, social, and mental characteristics and can be self-claimed or ascribed by others. Everyone has multiple social identities. As such, cultural humility is important in all mentoring relationships, even if mentors and mentees are similar in important characteristics, like race or gender, because there are likely many other ways that they differ. Cultural humility is grounded in continuous self-reflection. This involves asking questions about and exploring the many ways you define yourself. For example, your race, gender, class, ability, sexuality, and religion, and what those identities mean in the context of the power structures in the United States. Cultural humility also involves an ongoing process of learning about your mentee. Actively seek opportunities to learn about your mentee's culture and, when warranted and invited, to participate in that culture. You may also explore how systems of oppression and privilege shape your mentee's experiences. The more you understand this, the more you will be able to offer meaningful support. Cultural humility is not cultural competence, which many people confuse. Cultural competence assumes that there is an endpoint in learning, that you can simply observe and read about another culture, then you are done. This attitude could lead mentors to be overconfident in their relationships with youth. Cultural humility is also not colorblindness. Some Americans grew up believing that seeing race is a form of prejudice and discrimination in and of itself, and even mentioning a person's race is racist. Colorblindness creates a discomfort around individuals who are racially different from you, because they may feel that they can't bring their full self into a relationship. You can start building your cultural humility by reflecting on questions such as, how do my social identities shape my worldview and experiences? How have systems of privilege and oppression shaped my own identities and experiences? How do I make space in my mentoring interactions for my mentee to express their own identities? Committing and actively engaging in a process of ongoing self-reflection and learning about your own social identity is the key in being a mentor who is culturally humble. See the full chapter at mentoring.org/bettermentor for more tips on how you can be a better mentor.
So Welcome to Becoming a Better Mentor, Strategies to Be There for Young People. We hope that this resource will help you adopt a true mentoring mindset and build your skills for supporting the young people that you work with or mentor. Much of the work that Mentor National has focused on over the years has been helping mentoring programs and the professionals who work in those spaces to build their knowledge and improve their services. Mentor National's new resource, Becoming a Better Mentor, explores 12 different topics that are really central to building strong relationships with young people and provides mentors with actionable ways to support our youth. Today's topic that we're going to discuss is practicing cultural humility. And before I go on, I would like to take a moment to just give a shout out to my colleague, Mr. Juan Solis, who is going to be monitoring the chat and taking your attendance. So again, if you didn't hear the initial request, if you can place your name, email, and your agency you're from into the chat for attendance, that would be wonderful. So, what are you going to learn in this session, and how are we going to use the remaining content of this resource? Each of the 12 sessions in this series represent a core skill or practice that research suggests is important for mentors to bring to their relationships with young people. And not all of these may be relevant to your current mentoring relationships that you're working with, but a good mentor has lots of tools in their toolbox to use at the right moment, in the right time, to meet the needs of the young person they are working with. And you know, Juan, one of these days I'm going to borrow your tool chest so I can just show everybody I have a tool chest here with me, a toolbox. So these skills and practices are really loosely grouped into two different categories. The first category is relationship building practices. And these are going to consist of 6 different skills that we will look at and that will help you and a young person build trust and engagement with each other. And the second 6 will be focused on practices for supporting youth. And this is going to emphasize practices that might be useful in connecting with others in the youth's life and identifying and working on specific goals and tasks with the young person. So, what are we going to learn in this session? Well, earlier I mentioned this information will help you fill your mentoring toolbox with the skills and attitudes that can help a young person on their journey. Because every mentoring relationship is really unique, you likely won't apply all of these skills to every relationship, okay? But topics highlighted in this resource are the ones that research suggests is extremely valuable in a wide variety of mentoring contexts. So today we're going to focus on practicing cultural humility, and we're going to address how to identify what cultural humility and social identity are and their importance in mentoring relationships. We're going to talk about cultural humility versus cultural competency, right? And the contextual considerations for cultural humility. And before we move on, also, if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in the chat. We're gonna, because we only have an hour, we're going to take questions at the end. And Mr. Wan's going to be manning the chat to control those questions. So what does practicing cultural humility mean? Okay. Um, First off, we really want to figure out, what is cultural humility? Well, it's an ongoing, lifelong process of self-reflecting and learning about how social identity and experiences are shaped by systems of oppression, power, and privilege. Social identity is a person's sense of who they are based on their group membership, which can really reflect a lot of different things, such as their physical, social, and mental characteristics, such as race, gender, their class, their ability, sexuality, religion. And it can be a self-claimed identity or one that's been ascribed to you by other people. So just like all things, things can't be just cut and dry and simple. Uh, Social identities are multifaceted, okay? We aren't just looked at through the lens of one social identity. Um, as such, cultural humility is important in all mentoring relationships, even if mentors and mentees are similar in certain important characteristics like their race or their gender, because there's likely many other ways that they may differ. For example, there might be a middle class white mentor and a low income white youth. Uh, there again, you can see there's those similarities, but there are differences. So mentors with cultural humility continuously reflect on their own social identity and make efforts to learn about their mentees' social identity, their experiences, and their background. So cultural humility further entails um, the reflection about the differences and similarities between mentors and mentees that are shaped specifically by the inequalities in society, such as racism, sexism, inequitable schools, disproportionate justice system involvement, and different racial wealth gaps even. Um, so going on to the next slide. So why cultural humility is important to mentoring relationships? There's been a lot of research done on cultural humility and the related skills that show their importance in developing better mentoring relationships with youth and in fostering youth's ethnic and racial identity, um, which basically is defined as an individual's beliefs and attitudes about their ethnic or racial group memberships. So links with a youth's ethnic identity are particularly noteworthy because ethnic identity is a important component in the healthy development of adolescents of color. And cultural humility can also help mentors overcome barriers in a relationship with a young person, especially when we're mentoring a youth of color from a different racial background. Some youth of color have cultural mistrust toward people outside of their race. Particularly, this can be focused at white adults who are in positions of authority. And this mistrust is a general suspicion of or mistrust toward white people because of the historic discrimination experienced by people of color in the United States. And because youth of color, to be honest, in the United States, experience directly racial discrimination from adults in their lives. For example, shopkeepers and police officers and even their teachers. So having some mistrust is not always, it's not necessarily a bad thing because it does help our youth prepare them for the biased treatment that they might likely expect to receive growing up. But it could also create a barrier that white mentors need to overcome when mentoring those youth. So further, when mentors are not attuned to the cultural differences with their mentees, their mentoring relationships often can terminate early. So cultural humility may help mentors overcome mistrust in their relationship with youth of color in a way that strengthens their relationship and helps them last longer. So, what does cultural humility look like in practice? Well, first, we want to talk about what cultural humility isn't. Okay? Cultural humility is not cultural competence, which many people confuse and use interchangeably, even with cultural humility. Cultural competence really assumes a mastery and that there's an endpoint in the learning process. And this assumes that you can simply observe and read about another culture or study a culture in a course. And when you're done and ready to work with and understand individuals from that cultural group, that's all you need to do, right? But this attitude could lead mentors to be overconfident in their relationships with their youth. And in addition, it implies that um, you can understand the life experiences of individuals in a group simply by observing or learning about that group. And the mastery of another person's culture further, sorry, I hit the wrong, didn't mean to change that slide. Um, the mastery of another culture further assumes that a culture is only one type, which results in stereotypes about individuals from that group. Another critique that has been brought up about cultural competency is that when people think of culture, they often only think of an individual's racial or ethnic identity, and they miss all the other aspects of a person's social identity, such as their gender, their religion, their class, sexual orientation, etc. And all of those things are just as important and help you understand the whole individual. So cultural humility is not, um, it's also not color blindness. Some, as it was brought up in the video earlier, some Americans grew up believing that seeing race was like a form of prejudice and discrimination, and that even mentioning a person's race is racist in and of itself. And actually, I will acknowledge that quite often that's how I felt. I felt like, no, you're my friends. I don't identify you in a racial uh, context, and really that's not the way we need to be looking at each other. So race is very important. Discounting someone's race is not being able to see the full person. So rather than benefiting youth of color, research has actually suggested that adults and adults' color blindness can really be harmful to those youth. For example, there was some research on youth of color that started from early adolescence to college age. And it reported out that when their teachers or their instructors do not step in to acknowledge racism when it takes place, the students of color are left feeling like, you know, their instructors don't care about them, that they, and that even that they support the perpetrators of the racism. So we do need to acknowledge that race and racism is the first step in connecting with a person of color. So a little bit of self-reflection now. So what is cultural humility in practice? First, it is an ongoing and lifelong process that involves continuous self-reflection. We've already mentioned that. And this means that you're going to, that this process, and you're going to commit and actively engage in this process of ongoing self-reflecting, and you need to be learning about your own social identity and experience. And this really involves asking yourself questions about and exploring the many ways that you define yourself. For example, your race, your gender, your class, sexual orientation, or religion. And what do those identities mean to you in the context of the power structures in the United States? For example, a mentor might be a white middle class woman who grew up in a Christian community and identifies as lesbian. So, how do her race, gender, class, religious upbringing, and sexual identity influence her experiences in the world? And in what ways does she experience oppression due to her gender and sexual identity? And in what ways does she experience privilege due to her race and class? So if you have any thoughts on that, you can plug those into the chat right now. So looking forward, how have these systems of oppression and privilege shaped her experiences? And when and in what context do certain identities become more important? Another part of reflecting on your identity is that you may even feel pride about parts of your identity, and that can be very positive. However, it can be also a situation that makes you believe that some parts of your identity, for example, being a white woman, would make those identities would be considered more superior to others. So another mentor might be a Latino, middle class, straight Catholic man who grew up in a low income household. And this mentor can reflect on the same questions about his social identities and the systems of oppression and privilege that may have shaped his experiences in the world. And it's important for us to um, consider how our social identities really affect our interactions with the youth that we work with. So, um, you and your mentee might be similar in race, but different in your economic background or in your sexual identity. And perhaps your race and gender identities are the most meaningful parts of how you perceive yourself and your own experiences. But for your mentee, perhaps their sexual identity is the most meaningful part, which may influence how your mentee perceives you and themselves and understands their own experiences, right? So how do your experiences and social identities influence your assumptions about your mentee and your interactions with them? Well, engaging in this critical self-reflection may bring up a lot of uncomfortable feelings, right? Such as anger or shame or guilt, fear or sadness. These feelings are really a normal part of this self-reflection process that's around social identity. And it's also connected with the oppression and the privilege, and it's important that you explore these feelings further and just really sit with them for a while so you understand where you are at with your identities. So second, cultural humility involves an ongoing process of learning about your mentee. Remember, you're also a learner in your mentoring relationship. It's not just the youth, right? We're learning just as much of in this relationship as they are. And this means that you understand that you're never really going to learn everything, right, that there is to know about your mentee's cultural group. So you still want to make sure that you're actively seeking opportunities to learn about your mentee's culture and when warranted and invited into it, to participate in that culture. So you also want to remain curious about your mentee's culture. Um, Not just, keep that curiosity going all the time. It needs to be, the curiosity level needs to be there before and throughout your relationship. And this means that even if you and your mentee are similar in one social identity, such as your race or your gender, you remain open to the idea that your mentee's life experiences are different from yours because of the many identities that make your mentee's life experiences unique. So remember that similarity, just because there are similarities in both of your social identities, it does not necessarily translate to into that you've both had the same experience. It's important to maintain genuine interest in learning from and about your mentee and who they are. And you need to view your mentee as the expert of their own experiences, their own desires, and their own interests. This is going to really enable them when you're utilizing this outlook. It's really going to allow the youth to um, to foster that relationship and grow it, and increase that understanding that you have about each other. So it's another thing that has been brought up. I think it was actually last month's topic, was that it's really your responsibility to learn about the culture. It's not the youth's responsibility to teach you all about their culture and their social identities, right? It's really your responsibility. And an openness to learning is in line with best practices in creating effective mentoring relationships. You want to honor the youth voice, which is going to be a topic coming up in the next few months. And prioritize your mentees' needs and desires. And especially don't make your relationship all about you, okay, and what you think is best for your mentee, because that's not the place from where you should be working this relationship from. So learning about your mentees' identities and their backgrounds requires that you also learn about your mentee's family. And there's going to be more talked about on down the road uh, about that as well. Uh, you want to make sure that you're understanding your mentees, excuse me, um, family life and their experiences, because those experiences are unique to that particular family. So thirdly, it's really important to look at critiquing and reflecting on the power imbalance that can come up between you and your mentee. There's a very clear power differential between adults and children and adolescents that's solely based on age, right? Um, because, you know, there's that idea that adults have more power than youth do or children. But there's also other power differentials, such as a white mentor paired with a Black child, or a US citizen mentor paired with an immigrant mentee, or a professional middle class mentor paired with a mentee living in poverty, or a heterosexual or cisgender mentor paired with a gay or transgendered mentee. So acknowledging this power differential in your own self-reflection is the first step toward cultural humility. Excuse me. The second step is to consider how these power differentials might impact your mentoring relationship. For example, your mentee might have some distrust toward you or feel hesitant to develop a relationship with you. And because of these power differentials, understanding that your mentee is the expert in their own life is very important. And the fact that we need to honor their own life experience and their voice in this relationship. And that gives power to our youth within the mentoring relationship. And it shows that you value them and that they bring and what they bring to the relationship here. So I think we're doing good on time. So some contextual considerations for cultural humility. It's very important in any mentoring relationship to develop cultural humility, regardless of the mentee's age. the mentee or the mentor's race or ethnicity, or the number of ways in which the youth and mentors seem to have similar social identities. For example, there's a novel called Piecing Me Together by Renee Watson. And the main character, Jade, is a Black teenage girl from a poor neighborhood in Portland, Oregon, and she attends an elite private high school. And her guidance counselor encourages Jade to join a mentoring program for at-risk teens. And she's paired with a Black woman mentor who's an alumnus of the high school and from an upper middle class family. Unfortunately, the mentor and the program staff really treat Jade as an object of pity. And she sees right through it, right? Needless to say, the mentoring relationship had a very rocky start. And as Jade finds her voice in her mentoring relationship, and as a teenage girl more broadly, she expresses her concerns and that she simply wants to be heard and respected rather than viewed as someone who needs to be fixed, right? How many of us have heard that type of story, right? So Jade's story is a great example of two of the common pitfalls in the development of cultural humility. First, cultural humility is still important in these mentoring relationships, even though the mentee and the mentor share the same race, as their life experience differs in other important ways. And second, the story shows um, that how adults may have had good intentions to help low income youth of color, but what the staff and the mentors might actually be promoting is white middle class cultural norms and views, right? So we need to be mindful of that. Another consideration for cultural humility, for mentors who are part of a program such as Big Brothers Big Sisters, particularly when there's that program philosophy and when mentors reflect on the power differentials between themselves and their mentee, and they learn about the societal issues that their mentee's community is facing. How might social inequality come up in the mentoring program itself, right? Something we need to consider. Are there ways that the program may be advertently or inadvertently supporting an ideology that's against the best interests of your mentee? This isn't something you can solve on your own, but at the very least, it's important for you to become aware of this possibility and perhaps discuss it with your program staff if that's a concern about to you. So in the graphic, this quote says that rather than benefiting youth of color, research actually suggests that adults' color blindness can be harmful. So, tips and final thoughts. On the next page, the next couple slides we're going to look at in a minute, there is a list of questions for you to consider as you engage in ongoing critical self-reflection and learning about your mentee. And perhaps you want to grab a journal for yourself or a notepad when you're working through these questions, so you can write down your responses, or you can even type your responses into your phone or your tablet to have them handy and available. Um, Consider seeking other mentors or individuals who are engaging in this lifelong process of cultural humility. You can support each other and hold each other accountable as you engage in self-reflection and learning. And if you're mentoring within a program, perhaps your program or organization allows their mentors to meet periodically to support one another. Um, a lot of programs do have mentor, support groups and events that are specifically focused on supporting the mentors that they have within their program. And if you're not part of a program, but you are mentoring youth, then look for other adults around you in your day-to-day walk who also serve in a mentoring capacity. As you learn about your mentees' social identities and take steps to support their development of positive identities, such as their racial or ethnic identity, their gender identity, sexual identity, for youth who are marginalized in a way because of their race, gender, or sexual identity, for example, helping them develop a positive identity can contribute to a healthy sense of both themselves and the people in their group. You can support your mentee in developing a positive identity by showing genuine interest, okay, in learning about their identities, helping them to explore their identities, connecting them to positive role models and other adults who have similar identities, and engaging in activities that support their identity development. So the first set of questions are for, and I'm just going to kind of scan over them, but these are for you for your own ongoing learning about your mentee. And oh, excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong page. Questions for critical self-reflection. These are the ones that are directed to you and how you can develop that cultural humility. So you want to be asking yourself questions such as, what are your social identities, right? And what social identities are most important to you? Um, how do your social identities help or hinder your relationship with your mentee? And what do I learn about myself through listening and getting to know my mentee? Um, I like that last question a lot because we are usually so focused on, what we can learn about our mentee through listening and getting to know them. But wow, the thought that I could learn more aspects about my own uh, identity, my own life experiences, just by these conversations with the youth. That's very inspiring. So you will be getting this PowerPoint, so you'll have all of these questions to draw upon. And we also have questions for ongoing learning about your mentee. So same type questions. What are your mentee's social identities? And how does your mentee identify? What social identities are most meaningful to them? Um, what's the history of your mentee's local community? And what is the history of their cultural group in the United States? So, and this, I wish I had, you know, Juan usually has a lot of good sound effects and stuff. All I could think about earlier was, wouldn't it be something if I had one of those little music cues that dun dun dun, right? Because the next question, what happens if I make a mistake, right? We don't generally want to think about that, right? Um, but it is something that we need to address. So, um, looking at cultural humility as being this learning process, um, you need to acknowledge that, you know, you're in this ongoing learning process. Inevitably, eventually, you're going to be making mistakes along the way, right? We all do. That's part of what uh, being a human is, right? It's human nature. And part of why uh, many mentors avoid conversations about race is because they're afraid they're going to appear racist, or that they will make a mistake that's offensive or harms their mentee. And it's been determined to be worse not to try at all than to try and make mistakes. You want to take it slowly and start with your own self-education, which we've been talking about through this hour. And that could include reading books, listening to podcasts, watching movies, spending time in your mentee's community. Um, you want to take the time to listen and get to know your mentee and gain their trust. And when you do make a mistake, you need to right up front, you need to confront it, acknowledge it, and raise it, you know, bring it forward to your mentee. Acknowledging your mistakes to your mentee or in front of your mentee is a good role modeling skill, and it shows your mentee that you care about them and that you're willing to improve. Okay. Um, this could also even gain your mentee's respect. Um, then what you can try again and you do better next time, right? Um, you'll know that you're on the right path as your mentee gets more comfortable and more comfortable with you and um, shares more about themselves and their life. And they may also become more comfortable to raise up different sensitive topics that are on their mind. Um, you just want to keep in mind that cultural humility is a lifelong learning process. I know I've said that a lot, but it has to be repeated. Lifelong learning process that can enrich and strengthen not only your mentoring relationship, but also your own personal growth and understanding of and relationships with many other youth and adults in your life. So I love that Mentor National provides us with all of these extra additional resources. Uh, these resources are either online, which this page is, or in print form. And so you'll have these to look upon when you get the slides. And so how to overcome biases, 5 things that you can do today to support LGBTQ youth. Now, yes, the third, I looked this up, and yes, this is how they word this blog post, is how can mentors serve as advocates for GLBTQ youth? It's like, why confuse it? I'm already used to saying LGBTQ. Anyway, so I encourage you to check out those reading and resource opportunities. And there's the Critical Mentoring, a Practical Guide. This is a awesome book, and it is written by Dr. Tori Wieston-Surden, who is actually out of San Bernardino County and is a mentoring task force member. She is the executive director for Youth Mentoring Action Network. And if you are interested in reading about how you can help mentors can be assisted and program staff in engaging in transformational practice that challenges the idea that youth of color need to be fixed or saved, and teaches mentors how to partner with youth to create social change while validating their cultures and values. And next up for next month, because as you're probably aware of now, this series is a 12-session series. We offer it once a month. And in October, on October 19th, session 3, the topic is making room for fun and play, which is a topic that's quite often kind of overlooked, I think. So I'm really excited that they included this as a topic in this series. So the link will be, this is the link for the Eventbrite registration. It won't be active until October 5th. Also, we do have our training survey available for today's session. And it's very important for you all to complete those surveys. It helps us understand if what we're putting out there to the community is really valuable and working for all of you, and helps to continue this program in our funding. So it's really vital that we get your input through these surveys. And Juan has already entered that link into the chat as well. And like I said, I will be providing you all with these slides. There will be a follow-up email coming out for I'm winding down, see, so now I'm losing my words. There will be a follow-up email that will have the link to the survey. It's also going to have a YouTube link once we have transitioned this recording onto our YouTube page, that anyone that wasn't able to make it today can access that recording and view at their leisure. And finally, my contact information. Again, this will be on the slides for you. We do have our Children's Network website, which I'm a part of. and our Mentoring Task Force Facebook page, and my email is right there, my direct line, uh, if you have any further questions. And so I'm going to stop sharing, and we have 5 minutes to address any questions. So I don't know, Juan, if you've, because I wasn't seeing the chat all the entire time. Did you see any questions in the chat? And if you don't have a question, well, if you do have a question, you can unmute yourself right now.
Yeah, there's nothing in the chat. I don't know if anything was maybe sent to you individually or personally. But there's no questions in the chat.
I don't see anything. Thank you all for signing in to the chat. I greatly appreciate that. I don't see any questions. Something, since I do have a couple minutes, something I did not include in the PowerPoint slide this time was that Mentor National has made this series, Becoming a Better Mentor, available to the public, and allowing us to do as we like in putting forth this material to our mentoring community here in San Bernardino County. And so they also, and I will include the link in the follow-up email, they have directly on their website, mentoring.org, all the information, the PDF version for all the sessions. They've also developed audio book recordings for each session, as well as the short overview videos, the video that you saw at the beginning, and as well as a lot of different graphics and ideas that you can use with social media. So if you want to be able to use that for your own use as well with your agency, feel free to do that. If you would like to see how this series could be brought directly to your agency to train all of your staff, please feel free to contact me. You can put it into the chat with your contact information, and I can tailor these, sessions specifically for your particular agency as well. So we are at 2 minutes now. I'd just like to say thank you to Lisa and Lizette and Marina and Isella and Jamie and Sandra and Yesenia and Dr. Monica Caffey. Thank you for being here. I know we had some other folks, Mr. Edward Pena, Sandra's here still. Chantel, did I mention Chantel? Anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to spend with us and get this great information regarding how you can really provide excellent training and resources for mentors within your program, or if you're a mentor yourself, or if your program is thinking you may be a child serving agency, but not really consider yourself a mentoring program. If you're considering developing something else within your programming of your agency, feel free to give me a call and we can do some brainstorming and such with that, with those topics. So I want to be mindful of your time. It's 12 o'clock on the dot. Wow, I've never been on time this good. I'm really happy with myself. So I hope to see you all next month. Another thing is that these series, it's not a prerequisite that you attend all the sessions. Some sessions may be more applicable to your needs than others, and so you can pick and choose what really stands out and that you're interested in attending. So feel free to share the word with your coworkers. Again, you don't need to have attended the first couple sessions or even the intro. And hope to see you all next month on the 19th. Have a great day.